everyone, my name is Chelsea and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we are doing the 25 questions tag. So I was tagged to do this video by Jessi from The Bookish Mom, but the original video does seem to not be available anywhere, so we're just gonna go with that. I will leave Jessi's video linked down below, actually both parts of Jessi's video, because she had a lot to talk about. Because there are 25 questions, we'll see how long this is actually going to take us, and we're gonna jump on in. As far as I know, this is not supposed to be a book-related video at all. It is more of like getting to know the creator, that kind of thing. So, question number one is, what is your channel about? So obviously, I think most of us are here for the books. This is mostly a booktube channel where I talk about books, review books sort of thing, and just have a good time discussing them with you. Like, books are one of my absolute favorite things. They always have been, and so that is definitely a big part of this channel. I also do sometimes, not this year yet, but I did last year for sure, do some like video game live stream stuff, because that is another thing that I absolutely love, but I do find it a little bit hard to make time for it. With a 2-year-old who, you can sort of see him here, he's coming back and forth in this video, which is perfectly fine. And then also I do have some family stuff on here every so often. We'll have like just like family vlogs, vacation stuff. I haven't done that as much because of COVID, obviously, but that's pretty much what this channel is, mostly books plus stuff in my life. Number two, how old are you? I am 32. I just turned 32 in January, which, as Jessi said in her video, does seem to make me on the older side of booktube. A lot of people do seem to be in their 20s, but that's perfectly fine. I've actually found a pretty big group of friends that I've made on here that are also in their 30s and do booktube stuff. So we're not the only ones out here. There are definitely plenty of us that are slightly older that still love books and just love to talk about them with everybody else. Number three, what is your relationship status? I am married. Not that you can tell, because I had to take my ring off when I got pregnant again because my ring was not quite the right size after having Presley, and so yeah, I just haven't been wearing it for the last few months actually, but we are married. We will actually be celebrating our 5th year of marriage in October of this year, but I think we're going to be celebrating our 7th year of being together this April. Number four, did you go to college / occupation? The way that this question is worded is a little bit weird, but I did go to college. I actually went to ASU for almost 2 years. However, I was going to college right around when the recession hit in 2008, 2009, and so the major that I had was one that was not going to get me into a good field, so I did end up switching to a technical college where I ended up studying medical assisting, and once I graduated from there, I did actually do medical assisting for over 2.5, 3 years, something like that. I did really love that job. However, I also got burnt out on it a little bit. And since then, I've had a string of other jobs that I have, one, absolutely loved. Every single job that I've stayed in for over 2 years, I absolutely loved. And all of these jobs I did stay in for over 2 years, and life circumstances were what had me switch to something else. But so I did the medical assisting thing. I worked at Barnes & Noble. I worked at a school as a Title I teacher for 4th through 8th grade students with reading and math. And then I also went back to Barnes & Noble. So everything that I've ever done, like big jobs like that since I graduated, I've absolutely loved. But yeah, life circumstances changed some stuff around, we moved, that kind of thing. I'm not currently working because I am a stay-at-home mom with a 2.5-year-old, but I would not be opposed to going back to anything like that again. Number five, where are you from / where do you live? So I currently live in Phoenix, Arizona. I was born in Florida, and when I was 6, we moved to Arizona. So my mom, I blame for this. She apparently loves the hot climates. I don't love the summers here. I have never loved the summers here, but the winters, which is what it is right now, are very, very mild. They're not quite winters as most people would expect them to be, but overall I do like where we are living. So yeah, I think for most of my life I have lived in Arizona, mostly in the Phoenix area, but I did, when I was doing the medical assisting stuff, I did live up in Flagstaff, which does have more actual like winters, which was great. Number 6, looking back, what would you have told your 10-year-old self? I am not entirely sure exactly how to take this question. I mean, not that you can't tell your 10-year-old self anything necessarily, but I don't know if there's anything that I needed to specify to my 10-year-old self or that I would want to. I mean, maybe I would explain like what we're doing now, how great life is, that kind of thing, but I don't think there's anything that I would need to go back and like actually tell my 10-year-old self. Number 7, tell us about your family. I've mentioned my family that I'm currently living with on my channel before because, like I said at the beginning of this video, I do have family stuff on this channel. We used to do family vlogs and that kind of stuff. It's just been a little bit hard lately, but I currently live with myself, my husband, and my 2.5-year-old, and then our 5 cats. So yeah, it's a very cozy living situation here. Number 8, what is your favorite holiday? I am a big gift giver. Like, I like to think about what I'm going to give people and actually like put lots of thought into it, lots of love into it. Sometimes I even craft. So I would definitely say Christmas is probably the big one. We never really did like huge things for birthdays in my family, so like I wouldn't necessarily be like, oh, let's go celebrate one of my siblings' birthdays and get them a present, even though like that is a gift giving sort of thing as well. But Christmas for sure is where we would put all of our effort into figuring out like the good presents, that kind of stuff. So I always loved Christmas. Number 9, you have no budget. What is your dream vacation? So we actually, my husband and I, took a honeymoon to the UK and Ireland, so England, Scotland, Ireland, Wales, and we loved being there. That was probably one of my biggest like dream vacation sort of things, but since we've already done that, I would say, first of all, if we had no budget and if we were able to maybe like take an unlimited amount of vacation from work for him, because that would be amazing, we would go over probably to like Australia, New Zealand, and do that kind of stuff first, and then travel and head over to China because that's where his parents live. And we haven't really ever done like the sightseeing aspects of China, especially northern China, because his parents are from the southern areas of China. And so I think that would be really fun, is like to take the whole family and sort of go through the more like northern part, sightseeing part, and then go back down and visit family, because we've always talked about maybe trying to fit that kind of stuff in together, but because of budget and everything, I think it would be sort of hard to do Australia, New Zealand, and China, especially when you have the time constraints of like vacation stuff. But I think because they're pretty close together, that would be an amazing trip to like have everything fit together and sort of like hop over a little bit, but like maybe like a week in each place, or who knows. But I think that would be really, really fun. Number 10, name your biggest pet peeves. Oh goodness. So currently, because of COVID and everything, people that don't wear masks are a big one, especially that I'm currently pregnant, which means I am technically immune compromised. And so even though I am triple vaxxed now, if you're not, like, even if you are vaxxed, I feel like with everything going around, Omicron, the fact that like you can be vaxxed and still catch something and give it to other people, wear the mask. I also have a 2.5-year-old who cannot be vaxxed. So like that kind of stuff, like I hate having to go out places where I know people are not wearing masks. That's probably a big one. But also before all that kind of stuff happened, I hated slow walkers and people that like had a group of people take up the entire sidewalk when all you want to do is go around them. Like that was always something that I was super, super frustrated with. And then because I am technically a book channel, one of my biggest like bookish pet peeves is lending out a book to somebody and not getting it back in the condition that you gave them. So like, if you have your own books and you want to dog ear or, you know, break the spine, whatever you want to do, feel free to do that. But if I'm lending out my book to you, I better get it back in a timely manner, and it better be like the exact condition that I gave it to you in, which is probably also why I barely lend out my books. And when I say barely, I mean my best friend I would lend out books to, but he no longer lives in the state, so I don't do that. And I do let my husband borrow books. And I say borrow because they're mine. But I do let him read them depending on what he wants to read. So that's about it. Number 11, what book changed your life? I have so many books. I feel like this is akin to the what is your favorite book? And I don't think I could ever pick one specific favorite book. I mean, the changing your life thing too, like, I don't know, I guess it's because I read mostly fiction, could be adults, YA, middle grade, but in general, I feel like that kind of question almost sounds like it has to be a nonfiction, and most of the nonfiction I read are usually like autobiographies, and so I don't think I have a specific one that would be like, this changed my life. But, I mean, I do have books that I read, like, when I was younger. Like, I read Anne of Green Gables when I was in elementary school and just, like, absolutely loved that. I read The Lord of the Rings for the first time in 8th grade. Absolutely love those as well. Like, there are books that I remember from when I was younger that I do feel like had an influence on the types of things that I do read, the reading experience that I had from a young age to now. But I don't think I could necessarily pick one that, like, changed my life. Number 12, what simple invention improved the world? Okay, so some of these questions, I did not actually, like, remember these from Jessi's video, and I did not look them up before I started filming. So, like, a lot of these are catching me off guard a little bit. A simple invention that improved the world. For me, I think I'm gonna have to go with, like, water filtration. I don't know exactly if it's a simple invention, but I will tell you that, like, tap water in Phoenix is absolutely horrible. You do not want to drink it. It tastes disgusting. And so the fact that we can filter water so you don't have to keep buying bottled water is amazing. Like, I just fill up a water bottle multiple times a day because I'm pregnant and I'm drinking a lot, but I'll just fill it up from our fridge or the sink or whatever, now that it's actually, like, good and filtered, and I can drink the tap water without having to worry about it. And I do feel like a lot of places you can get filtered water that way. You don't have to buy bottled water. So I think I'm gonna go with that. I don't even know if that technically qualifies, but that's what we're going with. Number 13, favorite movies and TV shows. So I do like movies. I obviously like Lord of the Rings. I actually watched the first movie before I read the books, but then I read the books before the second and third movie came out because, like, obviously I needed to know what was going to happen. I also absolutely love Buffy, which is here. The DVDs for the TV show are actually just, like, right off camera. Speaking of Buffy stuff, I also do love Firefly. I know Joss Whedon as a creator is not the best person, but when you take into account all of the actors and writers and things that went into these shows, like, it wasn't just him, and I absolutely love them as well. Some other movies that I absolutely love, I love a lot of, like, the older 80s and 90s movies, like 10 Things I Hate About You, The Goonies, but I also really love, like, Little Miss Sunshine. I don't hear people talk about that one a lot. I think it was originally, like, an indie film, but it's so good, very dramatic. I also really love the, like, Cornetto trilogy, which I know maybe not everybody knows it as that, like, name for the trilogy, but, like, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, The World's End, like, those were my, like, college years, like, especially, like, the first two. Oh, so good, very humorous, and they always have that, like, twist to them, so those are great. And then for some TV shows, I have started rewatching Dairy Girls, which is on Netflix, and I absolutely love that one. I've watched it multiple times, and I can just sort of put it on in the background. Another one my husband and I have been watching, like, every single episode that comes out, is the, like, I Can See Your Voice. Those kind of shows are just hilarious to me, so we've been watching that. And there's probably a lot more, but those are the ones that are coming to mind right now. Number 14, describe yourself using 3 fictional characters. So this one might be a little bit hard. I don't know. Let's see. So just sort of thinking, the first one that comes to mind, because it's one of those characters that, like, anytime they have you do, like, the Myers-Briggs or any sort of, like, personality test, this is the character that always comes up for both that and the Enneagram for me, and that is going to be Samwise Gamgee from Lord of the Rings. I do feel like we share some traits in general, but that is definitely a character that, like, almost always, anytime you do a personality test with like book characters or movie characters or whatever it is, that one comes up for me specifically, always. Another one that I'm thinking of currently is probably Anne of Green Gables. That is somebody that I loved the books and everything when I was younger, and I think part of just having the red hair color in common was something that I attached to when I was younger. I don't know necessarily if I am like her. I do feel like she is very more extroverted in the books and TV show adaptations that I have seen out there than I ever was, but the fact that she loves education and teaching and books and that kind of stuff, I did definitely like that. And I have just spent way too much time racking my brain for a third fictional character, and it is not working. So, why don't you guys leave me a comment if you can think of any, and I will reply whether I think it works or not, because the one that always comes up is Samwise Gamgee, 100%. And then I do think Anne from Anne of Green Gables is one that I want to attach to, even if it's not necessarily 100% me as a character. And the only other things that I can think of are, like, I'm a reader, so like Belle from Beauty and the Beast, but I know that for other aspects of her personality, I don't think that's me. And so I'm just like literally racking my brain trying to think of other things, and a lot of it is just me liking characters and not necessarily being like, I see myself in this character. So let me know if you think you have one for me. Number 15, what was your dream job? So when I was younger, they always ask you this, like when you're graduating kindergarten, that kind of stuff. I wanted to be an artist. However, I think that eventually waned. Like, I do absolutely love crafting more than art. I think I'm better at the actual like making of stuff versus like drawing or painting. But I do love that aspect. Eventually I got to the point in like high school when I really wanted to be an actress. Because I did some theater stuff in high school. I was in multiple plays and musicals and everything like that, and I just absolutely loved it. Eventually, when I got to college, I really wanted to do something with psychology, marriage counseling, school counseling, that kind of stuff. But in the actual like 2008, 2009 time period, and I think even today with some of these things, you had to at least have a master's degree to potentially apply for a job in those sort of counseling spheres. And my mom knew specifically like her friends, and I knew them through proxy. Multiple people that had that master's degree were currently working in those spheres, and it was getting harder and harder to actually get jobs. More often than not, they were asking people to like get doctorates in order to like keep certain positions, and so I knew that wasn't going to be something that was like ultimately doable. Now, if you ask me, any sort of thing with books, like I would happily, once I'm done being a stay-at-home mom, when Presley and this baby eventually like go to school and I have at least some time to myself, I would love to go back into like Barnes & Noble or an indie bookstore or something like that where I'm surrounded by books. Sort of like what we're doing here, but you know what I mean, like an actual job that pays me better money than this. Number 16, if magic was real, what spell would you learn first? So I will fully admit I was one of those kids that fully believed in everything magical way longer than I should have. Like going into 6th grade, believing 100% in certain things. I don't know if there's any sort of specific spells. However, I always thought it would be cool. Like when people talk about like, what kind of superpowers would you want? Would you like to fly or teleport? I do think teleporting would be really cool in the fact that you'd be able to very easily go see family or go see other countries or not have to spend time driving in a car to your work, that kind of thing. I think that would be really cool. So I think that might be one. Ooh, or the ability to like stop time, so that you had more time in a day to do things that you need to do or to chill, like that kind of stuff. One of those two. I don't know for sure which one I would pick. I mean, teleporting, that kind of thing came to me first, so maybe that one. But I do think like stopping time and being able to like have more time in a day would also be amazing. Number 17, share a favorite childhood memory. So one of the first things that came to mind, and this is definitely going to sum up a little bit of my personality back when I was in school, because I was that kid that was like wanting to learn everything and was really proud about certain things that I did learn or memorize. I know some schools memorize, but this was back in 7th grade, and in my 7th grade school, it was a huge middle school, and we had teams of grades. So like we had 7th and 8th grade there, and there was like 5 teams per grade, and you were supposed to be sort of on the same team for every single class. Like each team had the English teacher, reading teacher, social studies, math, science, you know, etc. They each had a teacher for each team. So we had like 10 different teachers at the school for these different things. And you were supposed to be on like one team, but depending on certain electives, like I was in band, you did then have to sometimes have a different schedule because your science class or something was at the same time as band. So in my 7th grade, I had like most of my classes with one team, but then I had science with a different team. So it was near the end of the school year, and that team that I had the science class for was doing some sort of like almost like an Olympic type of event where with each class they had split up into groups, and they would go to class and they would have sort of like a quiz, but it was like a fun quiz like Jeopardy or something where they played a game with their like final exam questions. I was not allowed to participate because technically I was not on their team for the rest of the classes, and they didn't want to give anybody an unfair advantage because I was really, really good at science. I had like a straight A thing that entire year. But the one thing that I remember is one of the questions that they had, nobody was able to get, because again, this was something that was technically more memorization than anything else, but I still remember it to this day. It was asking about like the classifications for animals, and you had to like state it in order, and nobody got it right, and the teacher just like literally turned to me and said, okay, Chelsea, so what is it? And it was kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. I don't know if there's a different word for it in other countries, but at least here in the US back in like 2002, something like that, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. I still remember that. So I don't know, it was just something that I was not upset with not having to participate, because it wasn't like I could earn or lose points for those teams. I got to basically just like sort of sit in class and watch the participation. I think I even got to read a little bit as well. That teacher loved me. But yes, I still remember the answer to that question. Number 18, what is your favorite social media platform and why? So I do not technically think YouTube is a social media platform. I do like doing this kind of stuff and putting out the videos, but I think as an actual like social device, it doesn't work very well. So the one I'm going to pick is Instagram. And 100% it is because I absolutely love the visual medium first and foremost. So seeing the pictures. Not so much the reels, that is not exactly like my favorite part of it, but I love seeing the pictures and scrolling through, and like, yeah, you have captions and everything, but I love being able to connect to people that way. So that I think is my like top number 1. Number 19, if you could pick any book character, who would you spend the day with? Oh, okay, so this one definitely is not probably gonna be somebody that's like exactly like me. Who would I spend the day with? Okay, so this one, I think I'm going to go with Jess from The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. The main reason is I feel like me being a 32-year-old mom, I can't really say I want to hang out with teenagers, and I know a lot of the books that I have behind me, like over here, are young adults, and I do feel like a fantastical world could be cool, but they don't say that you're necessarily going to go into the book to hang out. You're just going to hang out with them. And Jess in this book is a single mom. It is a romance, so I mean, like, there is romance eventually, but I feel like a mom friend would just be really cool to hang out with for a day, because I have a 2.5-year-old. I'm pretty sure the kid in the soulmate equation is older. I can't remember fully off the top of my head, but I loved Jess's characterization, not only as a character, but as a mom and a friend and a family member. Like, everything about that was perfect, and I feel like that's the way I'm veering towards. Somebody that is also a mom, that we would just sort of hang out and have a fun day. Number 20 is, what's your spirit animal? I do not like the phrase spirit animal because it is definitely taking from Native American and Indigenous cultures. This is just not something that I feel like people need to ask or say or anything like that. I also don't think I have an animal that I feel like is me, so that wouldn't really fit for this question. Like, I'm just gonna say that my favorite animals are cats and otters, which are basically water cats. So those are the animals that I like. We are not going to use spirit animal as a term, okay? 21, what old person thing do you do? So if you watched my vlog, you will know that I just picked up some yarn from Michael's recently to crochet a baby blanket for this baby here. I did this when I was pregnant with Presley as well. I've crocheted other things, but I seem to not do it all that often. I sort of have a year or so in between, and so the last time I crocheted, I did the baby blanket. This time I'm gonna do a baby blanket, but those kind of like crafts, I know you don't have to be old to do it, but I do feel like it feels like an old person thing, having time to knit or crochet. I don't knit, I just crochet, but that for sure. Number 22, do you have a hidden talent? So this is one of those things where I don't necessarily know how much of a talent it is, but this is what I say anytime somebody asks about a hidden talent. I can do the ABCs backwards very easily. So we have Z, Y, X, W, V, U, T, S, R, Q, P, O, N, M, L, K, J, I, H, G, F, E, D, C, B, A. The end. Number 23, where do you see yourself in 5 years? So a lot of my husband and I planning for the future is all based around how old our kids will be at that time. So 5 years from now, Presley will be 7.5, and this baby here will be about 4.5-ish. So at that time, I would assume Presley would be probably like in 2nd grade, and this kid would be starting kindergarten, that kind of thing. So ultimately, I might be getting back into the workforce in some capacity because, like I mentioned before, I do think that is something that I would want to do, especially when I have some time where I can put them in school, and then like during the day I don't have to watch them, because basically right now, if I did decide to go back to Barnes & Noble, the amount of money I would be making at Barnes & Noble is very much equivalent to how much it costs for daycare. So there is no point of me going to work only to pay for daycare. But by that time, they'll be in school. So going into the workforce again is something that I think I would want to be doing 5 years from now. However, I'm also really hoping that we're still doing this 5 years from now. I've been doing this for 4 years already, so that would mean I'd be doing this for 9 years at that time, but so far I still absolutely love it. I love making these videos, I love talking about books and showing my life and connecting with you guys as well, so hopefully we would be doing this still. Number 24, share an item and tell us its significance. Okay, so I had to go into my office to get something because that is where I keep a lot of like my little personal trinkets on a shelf above my desk area, and the one I got is this little guy. I will say, as soon as I picked this up, Presley was like, no, because he's hit or miss with like things that look like people but are inanimate. I don't blame him. But this one was actually a gift for me from my best friend who at the time was living in Erfurt, Germany, and I did actually go and visit him at one point, and it was amazing. It was the first time I think I had traveled outside of the country by myself, but I absolutely had a blast doing that. And this is a little guy that, from my memory, because he has explained it to me and I loved the idea of him while I was there, so when he came back, this is what he brought me. But this is a guy that was from like the children's TV in that area of Germany. I don't know if it's the whole Germany or not, but this was like a little Sandman guy, I'm pretty sure, that would go and he would be on the TV, and like at night, I'm pretty sure, again, I could be 100% mistaken, he would be on there to like close out the children's TV segment so that kids could go to sleep. I don't know, but he is absolutely adorable. It was a gift from a friend, and so yeah, and it has the name on the tag here. So I think this is his name. It's the Unser Sandmanchen. I am not good at any sort of German whatsoever. I think the only thing that I really remember from even going over there and stuff is like Frühstück is breakfast. I remember food words. Then again, coffee and coffee are basically the same. So, but yeah, this guy is adorable. And then finally, number 25 is to tag some people to do this tag. So I'm going to pick some people that I have made friends with through BookTube, but I would also love to learn more about them. So I want to tag Ashley from Bookish Realm, Lana from Lore and Lullabies, Kat from Kat's Book Corner, Christina from Northwest Reader, and Heather from Belle's Library. So I think that is it. Hopefully this video wasn't too long. I'm actually not entirely sure how long this is going to be because of the fact that I had to stop multiple times to help Presley with stuff. So the amount of time it took me to film should not be how long this video actually is. But we shall see. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up to let me know. Subscribe to this channel if you would like to see more videos. I do have videos up Tuesdays and Thursdays, so I will see you then. Bye! Why does it feel like everything that I've ever known flies off the top of my head as soon as a question is asked? Because that is what is happening.